Good morning, everybody. I'm Chris Burnley, CEO of Corefact. Corefact is a real estate marketing company. We've been around for 15 years, working with almost 200,000 accounts now, and everything from agents who are just starting out in the business to top producing agents with multi-million-dollar GCIs. And over the years, we've learned a lot about marketing and what people are doing and what's effective and so on. And today we're going to talk about pop-ups, which is a new product from Corefact that helps increase response rates to particular business scenarios. And what I want to do is introduce Chio, who's the inventor of these pop-ups. He's also our director of creative services, and he can tell you a little bit about what a pop-up card is, and then get into how we came about putting this together. And then ultimately, we're going to go through a number of different business scenarios where you can use this to effectively increase your business. Okay, so let's get started. Good morning, Chio. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, definitely. My name is Chio. I'm the creative director for Corefact. Before I jump into a little bit about what the pop-up cards are all about, I just want to share a quick story with you guys of how we even came up with the pop-up cards. So, back when I was probably like 5 years old, one of my first books was a pop-up card, and it was so memorable. I literally, kept that book for years, and I read it over and over again. And so fast forward 5 years later, my mom, she was cleaning out the attic, and she said to me, she goes, "Hey, are you gonna ever read all these books?" And I said to her, "Well, let me go through it." And so I went through it. I tossed out every single book. I kept the one book, which was just that one pop-up.
Mm-hmm.
And still to this day, I'm pretty sure you had one of those books too, didn't you?
When I was a kid, I had a dinosaur book, and you would open up the dinosaur book, the little T-Rex would pop out. You could go with like this with the page, and it would move. So yeah, it definitely has an emotional response. I still remember it to this day.
Right, and so we applied that same type of philosophy whenever we're creating some of these products. And what we did was we ended up creating these pop-up cards. So I'm gonna show you a few right now, real quick, that we have on the store. For those of you guys who got some of these samples, you guys probably know about our open house pop-up cards, our market update pop-up cards, the just sold pop-up cards, etc. So I want to kind of show you guys how this looks like. It looks kind of like this, a typical note card. There's some branding to it. And when you open the card up, it pops up with the featured property, right? Kind of looks like this. This particular card is actually handcrafted and stuff like that. So if you think about the male moment, that male memorable moment, this is probably it, right? So we apply that same type of feel to a lot of these pop-up cards that we have today. And you guys probably see like the just sold ones and things like that, right? So now we'll probably, a lot of you guys I think are probably thinking, hey, how do I use this in my business, right? So me being the creative director here at Corefact, I've been in Corefact for probably over about 10 years. And one of my key roles here is to work with top producing agents all around the United States. So I've seen a lot of strategies that work and seen a lot of strategies that don't work. A lot of people come to me and go, "Hey, Chio, what's the best way to penetrate a new farm area? What's the best strategy? Or what's a good farm count?" Things like that. They might also say something like, "Hey, I'm trying to grow a team. What's the best way for me to kind of do that, right?"
Mm-hmm.
Or, "Hey, how do I penetrate a different market where there's other seasoned professionals in there that's been marketing that area for a long time?"
Right.
So we always come up with designs. I love design. Design is just my world, okay? But the problem is, I always tell Chris this, I say anyone could design, but we need a strategy behind those things to make it real effective, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna share a quick story. I had this agent come in here, and she was working this open house. And before the pop-ups were even created, I was prototyping something. She said to me, she says, "Hey, Chio, I got this open house this weekend. I was wondering if I could try out one of these pop-up cards." And I said, "Sure, why not?" So we did open house pop-up card for her. And the great thing about it was she, she sent out postcards for the open house. I think it was 200 postcards. And then what she did was she sent out closest radius to that subject property, like 50 of them. And what happened was, one, she's seen a great increase in traffic to her open house. And then two, she got a lot of people to show up and actually show the card to her and say, "Hey, is this the way you market properties? Because if it is, I would love for you to market my home." So little things like that keep things memorable for a prospective seller,
Mm-hmm.
but also tons of value when it comes to driving traffic to the open house. So that's an example.
Okay, that's a great example, Chio. And so we had talked about, the fact that, so if you look at a pop-up card that Chio just showed you, one of the things that we didn't talk about is that this actually comes in an envelope. It's handwritten, where it has what appears to be a handwritten font, which is actually a variable font. We call it a dynamic font.
Yeah.
And you want to explain a little bit how that works and why that's significant?
Yeah, this is a really cool font. Check out this font here. This font is actually based off of someone's handwriting, right? So for those of you guys who probably purchased fonts before in the past, what's interesting is when you buy a typical font, and let's say, for example, you type in S twice, it's going to be the same S, right? With this dynamic font, what happens is if you type in, let's say, E twice, you're going to have two different style E's. And it's those little imperfections that make this, this handwriting style look really unique. So if you take a look at this, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. But take a look at those E's, for example. They're both different, little things like that. So it's strategic. Everything that we do here is really strategic. We spend a lot of time on trying to get their attention and trying to drive out responses. Just the fact that, having postcards that pop up is one thing, but being able to insert it into something that people are going to open up, and having maybe an approach where we have a customized font style like this can really drive up the responses. So that really does help. Yeah.
Okay, well, excellent. Well, that's a great demonstration of what the cards look like. So maybe we can get a little bit more into the strategies. But before I do, I want to just mention to everybody, if you have any comments or there's anything that you're interested in understanding, you can type that into the question area, and we'll be happy to answer those as we go. We're also going to take some time at the end to also have a further discussion with everybody. So let's talk a little bit about some of these business strategies. The first one that you kind of opened up with was the open house. And so maybe we'll start with that because it's the easiest.
Right.
And we came up with something here we call the bullseye strategy, which you alluded to, which is, if you're farming a particular area and you generally mail, say, 250 postcards to that area, maybe 500, and you want to do an open house, and you're doing an open house within the community, well, the bullseye strategy effectively says, okay, we're going to mail with an inexpensive postcard to that 500, and we're going to go to the top 25 closest to the open house with something like a pop-up card. Now, just because everybody's probably wondering what do these cost, typically these are about, for $99, you get 25 of them. And so it's a little bit more expensive than your traditional postcard, or if you're at door knocking, you can also buy these in door knock. But the idea is that you're really going to put the emphasis on the people the neighbors most likely to be your next listing, to drive them there. And we found that all the agents that we're talking to that, $100 is a great investment to get those neighbors there. So maybe, Chio, you can tell me a little bit how we came up with this and how it's worked, because you have some feedback.
What was really interesting was before we even created this product in real estate, we actually used the pop-up cards in what I call probably a more difficult industry, which was insurance. And if you guys know about insurance, I flew all the way out to Texas. I went and met with Travelers. I met with Liberty Mutual. I met with all these guys, and they had a real big pain point. And that pain point was, how do I reach C-level decision makers? Every time when I send a postcard, it doesn't reach that person, or it doesn't have that impact, right? And so these guys who sell insurance, when it comes to, let's say, Google pay-per-click ads, it can range from $40 to almost $100
per click.
Per click. It gets pretty outrageous, right?
Yeah.
It's just not scalable, right? And so I'm gonna show you one of our first cards we did. This was for an insurance company. They're selling into heavy construction, and they wanted to reach business owners in this particular field, and this is what we did for them. So this is the pop-up card here, and here's the pop-up. So take a look at that. That's pretty cool. So what's interesting was they mailed about 200, 300 of these. They had a sales team follow up, and they got way more responses than they would have ever believed. To be honest, I think they were telling me like about 40, maybe 45 people or something like that responded, which was great because they're a big believer in direct mail. A lot of people get discouraged with direct mail. If you haven't mailed before in the past, or if you invested in direct mail, I think that's one thing that's still discouraging is, is it really working? And if you feel like sometimes like, hey, I don't have those moments, those memorable moments, how do I try to achieve that? And do I achieve that with something with just a regular postcard that exposes my message right up front? You don't have that experience with it. So
Right. I think, well, maybe I'll butt in here a
Yeah.
little bit. You know, the thing about direct mail is it's a long-term strategy to effectively grow a business. And you know, some people come in direct mail and they think, well, you know, I'm going to get listings after my first postcard. And really, it's more about building market share and growing your brand within a community over, you know, initially probably 12 to 18 months, and then ever thereafter, it just continues to grow and allows you to grab market share. So generally, it's a strategy where you have to name yourself first, get the brand out there. These pop-ups certainly do help with that. But what I think what Chio alluded to, and I think is important to understand, is that, you know, when we talk about like this insurance company here, the thing is, this is just a piece of paper folded in an envelope, and it's beautiful and it gets attention, but it's nothing without a strategy.
Right.
And when you tie this to a strategy, then you have a winning solution. And what these guys did is they basically plugged it into their CRM, where what they would do is they would prospect to high value targets with the pop-up card. And then what they would do is they would follow up 6 days later with an email and a phone call. So it was a multi-marketing strategy.
Right.
And when we talk about things like, you know, a traditional open house, it's also a multi-level strategy where this particular card, the sole purpose of it is to drive the neighbors to your open house, more of them, so that you can have a conversation about listing their home. And then I think once you get to the listing presentation, there's another opportunity there. So maybe you can tell us about what an agent did with a listing presentation.
Let me jump into that. So I was, you know, like I said before, I'm working with a lot of different agents around the country. Right? One of the things I do is brand development and helping agents carry their brand, making sure that we're sensitive to how they built their book of business and basically carry over that brand with the right messaging for them. So typically, here's what we did for this particular agent. This is their actual folder for their listing presentation. And inside their listing presentation generally is something like, you know, what you normally see. It's like a seller guide, right?
So this is the listing presentation that's to be left with the
so leave behind
seller.
Piece. Yeah.
And you know, it's branded inside. It's got a number of pieces inside, and it's a nice tri-fold type folder.
So, you know, I was talking before, but we were talking about even listing presentation and how to, you know, apply, you know, pop-up cards to this particular strategy. We know that anytime it's a competitive listing, you know, let's say, for example, I'm an agent, Chris is an agent, and we go and we try to pitch to the prospective seller. I'm going to probably show them the exact same comps or something close to the set of comps that Chris is going to have. And I'm going to walk them through as to what I call the marketing fluff, which is, hey, we all the agents are going to do this. We're going to say, hey, we're going to stage your home. You know, this is who we are. Here's all the properties we sold. Here's our team.
They can't see, so
right, so on and so forth. Now, what would happen is once the agent has a brand like this, a lot of times agents are trying to figure out, how do I let the world know and have an impact to show off my brand? And so what we did was this: we carried over the same type of design, right? And we did this pop-up card to kind of follow along with it. Check that out. So that's a pretty cool card. This person here was actually was an assistant to some of the top agents around this area. I known her for probably about 10 years. And, you know, me and her, we used to always joke around, and I would tell her, I said, hey, why don't you ever get your real estate license? And the first thing she says to me is, I'm not quite ready. So it was just last year. I'm so proud of her last year because she finally got the license. And she goes, hey, you know what? I want to let the whole world know that I am no longer part of this team. I'm my own brand now. And so that's what happened. We ended up creating that brand for her. She sent it out to past clients. She sent it out to, you know, investors that she knows, stuff like that. Everyone gave her really, really great compliments, and she actually got some referral and actual business from it. So that's a great thing. So that's how people are using this, and just showing prospective sellers that, hey, when I market a property, I can creatively market, you know, and here's some sort of things I do. I don't just send out a postcard. I don't just do property brochures, but I really take it to the next level. And here's some of the things that I can really do with that, right? So yeah, that's another one.
Actually, you know, following on to this, you know, in our sales department, you know, when we introduced this product, Jim, our VP of sales, he went crazy. He says, oh, I got to have the pop-ups. And our sales team went running out and started selling pop-ups like crazy. And one of the things we did is we put together a sample process for the pop-ups. And so one of the clever agents out there, I got this anecdotally from Jim, was, they had their traditional listing package, which probably wasn't as nice as the one we put together for this team, but they took the sample pop-up card, which had a fake agent on the back, like the samples that we send out, and took it to the listing presentation and said, hey, this is one of the things I do for you as part of my marketing campaign. And it really resonated, and we got very positive feedback from that. I'm told that same agent listed the property, they sold the property, and then when they sold the property, they actually did a just sold pop-up to the entire farm. And this was, I think, multi-million-dollar listing in the San Diego, California area. But they had such good success initially with just using the sample to get the listing, then using the actual cards they ordered us for the listing using the bullseye strategy. And then ultimately they decided, gosh, this works so well, I've got to show my proof of production. And they used it for the entire farm. Now, this is a fairly affluent neighborhood they're selling into. Yeah. So, using a more expensive product like this in that case made sense. Yeah. And now that particular agent is adding this as a common or a standard thing that they're using in their business, which is pretty cool.
That's great. They just took our samples and got more business. That's amazing.
So maybe you can tell us a little bit about, we talked about the open house card. You showed some examples of how we're using this in other industries. Yeah. Can you show some, we offer custom pop-ups too, and what those look like? Sure. And maybe some other strategies that have been used?
Yeah, definitely. So the first thing is, over here, we have a pretty solid design team here and work with probably dozens of designers, everyone working from print products to multimedia to social media. So we have a lot of designers here. We have a design team, and we basically work with all these agents. Every agent who looks at these cards, they go, hey, I want to use my own brand on here, right? I want to do my own thing to it. So I'm gonna show you what this agent did. It's pretty clever. I love this card, by the way, right? So a lot of you top agents out there probably know about this because I know you guys are all top agents, okay? So, right, here's the top agent. This is what they did. Up here. This is her card, okay? For branding, and basically here's what she did. She's the super agent, right? If you're ready to sell, you call this agent. Check that out. So that's.
I love how the shadow is in the background. It's pretty cool.
And it's pretty cool because we personalize all these cards. We tie it in with our key code. We use variable data. We're basically putting technology on a card, and we're making this into a form factor that is memorable. And I think it's tangible. It's a different experience. So, but yeah, people are getting a lot of getting really creative with this. One, you could use this to kind of like generally market your services, things like that. I have agents where, let's say, right around Thanksgiving, what they want to do is give like a pie giveaway. We have pop-up cards that pop up pie. Going back to like some of this other stuff. I mean, check this out. This will be pretty funny. And this to me is always so tempting. I kind of look at it and I'm like, oh, I wish I had a sandwich. This is what we did for an insurance company for Jersey Mike's. All right, so imagine if that was a pie, something like that. If it was a Christmas tree, a Christmas card, things like that.
In this case, a sandwich.
A sandwich, right? So we also do things like this where, hey, you know what? We want to partner with someone, right? It's a dollar sign, right? So you can get really creative with this, and a lot of guys a lot of you guys who do a lot of marketing, things like that for different strategies, maybe you want that right message to come across. If you do, you can always email us, cd@corefact.com, which is basically custom designs at corefact.com, and we can make sure to implement your message, create that pop-up, give you that one experience that all of your prospective sellers are kind of looking for. And yeah, we can get going with something really more creative than just what's on the store.
So you keep saying what's on the store. Can you show me the different designs that you have online and how those are particularly used?
Yeah, definitely. So one, you guys already seen this one, which was the open house one. Okay. All right, you guys seen this one? Okay. When you sell a property, obviously promote it, highlight it, show your success, show it off. And you sold within 1 week, sold with multiple offers, that kind of stuff, right? Let's say if you don't have a listing, you're not that active right now. What if you had something like a customized market report? So check this out. So personalized with your own set of comps, right there.
So maybe we can explain this a little bit more, because I know not everybody here is is as familiar with some of the things we do at Corefact, but this particular card, 123 Main Street, would be unique to every single homeowner receiving that, in this case, the pop-up.
Right.
So 123 Main Street, 124 Main Street, and so on. When they open up the card, what's really cool is they're using our auto market update technology, is that every single one of these recent sales would be unique to that property. So you could actually, send it to your sphere of influence all across the U.S., except for a few non-disclosure states, and have a set of recent comps show up there. You can also specify those comps yourself if you don't want to have the computer generate them for you. And then each card would also be uniquely addressed to the recipient. So in this case, Mary Johnson, and it would have a code key at the bottom that would allow them to go online either to your website or to a landing page that we make available to you for free to get a free home estimate. And the idea there is not to give them an exact estimate, but a range, and to have them really communicate with you for a professional CMA. And the idea is that these particular pop-ups, along with our postcard series, are designed to take traditionally an offline direct mail opportunity, bring it online, and allow you to start communicating via phone, email, social media, and so on and so forth. And so it's really about trying to tie the online world with the offline world, drive up your response rates, not be entirely dependent on just getting a set of 10, 20, 30 leads through one of the major portals out there that you're paying $150 a lead for, but generating your own leads, building a brand, and then effectively using that farm and that brand to grow your business year after year for less and less money each year. So instead of spending $1,000 a month for 50 leads that 4 other agents are getting, you're getting now your own unique leads that you're following up with. You're becoming the pinnacle in the community, and your signs are going up, and people are effectively seeing you as that top producing agent. And our new pop-up cards are just the next step in helping you realize that. And ultimately, we have people like Chio here, which work with the top producers and work with their different strategies to really fine tune that to get the impact. And so that not only do they know your name, but they know your logo and you're memorable. And when that conversation occurs where one neighbor's asking the other neighbor, well, who should I call to sell my home? They say, well, Jane Doe Realtor, it seems to be the top producing agent in this area. I would definitely give her a call. And that's ultimately what we're looking to achieve.
Yeah. And here's the one thing I love about just being, like a creative director here at Corefact and just working on strategies. We would do so much, and when everyone says strategy, what is strategy, right? And a lot of times it goes into like the details of the smallest things, just like the language that we use or the call to action. So for example, I'll share a quick tip with you guys that I've worked with a lot of top producing agents that I've seen work in a lot of different areas. For example, whenever you send out like a just sold postcard, for example, right? And it'll say something like, hey, I sold this, over asking price within 1 week and received multiple offers. It's a typical kind of like marketing message for realtors in general.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of realtors I work with, we try to leverage that sale and try to highlight that sale, but we will also do little things, and we'll say something like this. Hey, this home sold for this much over asking price, but hey, Zillow had it, there's estimate had it at this price. So the little things like that validate and build reputation to make it easier to sell. Mm-hmm. Now imagine you send out a card like that and you start putting that type of technique into your marketing. That should help you drive responses just from the little things like that, right? So when it comes to strategy, it's not just about, hey, how do we get this card out? Or how do we do this, work on this particular program or platform? It's more about, hey, how do we get the right message across so that it resonates enough so we could drive responses? So just thinking about that whole thing. Now, if you look at some of the cards that we've done, you can see how we get a little more aggressive with some of the call to actions on here, right?
So you have to show them.
Here we go. So if you knew what your home could sell for a great price, would you sell? Little things like that. I mean, don't be passive. Try to be more aggressive. Ask for the business and that kind of stuff. And we always work with that type of philosophy.
Can I have that one?
Yeah, sure.
Actually, bringing this one up, this is our one of our home estimate series. Those of you who use our postcard products probably are familiar. That has a map of the homeowner's house showing all the recent sales around their homes, inviting them to come to your website, for a free home estimate. Now, one of the things that's really cool about this, I thought it'd be worth, we're talking about another strategy, which is we partner with companies like Prospect Now, which produces a list of the most likely people to sell within a geographical farm, and it's a sorted list. And so, using these is a great strategy to basically break the ice for, say, the top 25 people in that most likely to sell list. Another great solution that we've seen people using these with is another partner we work with Rebo Gateway, and they have a phenomenal farming product that produces a list of anybody who has an NOD. There's a divorce filing, a tax default, and things like that. And so basically, life events that are driving change within a household, and it's not to be an ambulance chaser out there, but rather to be somebody who can help facilitate somebody through maybe a tough time. And then how do you connect with that agent? With NODs, for example, every agent in the world is going to be sending something, a calling or an expired listing, but those less subtle life-changing events like a birth or a divorce typically are a huge opportunity as well. And oftentimes it's an opportunity for multiple transactions because you have two parties departing, they're selling a house, they're buying two new homes potentially. And this is a great tool that you can use as a strategy to get in there. I thought, also, these types of cards work perfectly in that strategy, but they also, work with your sphere of influence when you're thinking about, you put together your list of friends, family, and acquaintances, and how do you re-engage with them? Well, it would be great if you called them every 2 months, but you could put something like this into your strategy as well, where you're giving them something of value, like showing them the recent sales in their neighborhood, and then following up with a call to ask them for referral business. And so I see already that there are a number of questions online, and I'm going to go ahead and I think we should address some of them.
Sure. Yeah,
and so Mercedes here asks, is the handwritten font embossed?
The handwritten font is not embossed. It's actually just print. I think at some point we're considering using like an actual blue color to make it look even like a blue pen. But we just kind of kept it black just to fit generic for now for the initial rollout. It's not embossed, but it's a good idea. Maybe something we might do down the road, but
Yeah.
At least it'll give a different feel to the piece, So.
And I think that's one of the things here at Corefact that we're really open to is if you guys have a great idea, you think you can make a product better. I mean, our goal is to make the products as best we can, and we're listening to your feedback. And so, something like that we'd love to do. And then, a lot of times when we're doing, custom designs like this one, it's also fueling ideas for the next product. So,
well, that's also what I was gonna say real quick too, was that a lot of times when we work, the difference between us and maybe coaches is a coach might tell you, hey, do this in your daily work thing, or hey, make sure you follow up with this person, or hey, implement this strategy. But we don't like to talk here. We like to actually produce and show you what we could come up with and how we could creatively create something that's going to impact your business. And what we'll do is like, if you have any type of ideas that are that maybe we haven't talked about today, then email us. You could message me now. We can talk about it now. So
yeah, and coaches are a great tool for your business. I think coaches keep you honest and on track, and we keep you efficient. So that's the difference. We're here about doing the production, actually putting the work behind the actual marketing, and the coach can help you also figure out what to do and keep you honest that you're actually doing it. So that's a subtle difference, but it's an important one. I see a couple more. I got Terry here says, is it possible to get a sample to show my team? Of course. What we'll do is we'll post a link here where you can, we'll send you a bunch of samples, and anybody who wants samples, we can get them. And let's see. Lucy says, how long will it take for you to redesign my pop-up cutout?
Well, it really depends. If you send me like a photo and you're like in front of like a tree with tons of leaves, it's gonna be harder to cut out. But it's not just that. It's just it really depends on the complexity. Generally, if it's a simple shape, it really probably like a day. If it's something more complicated where let's say you have like a bridge and you have to cut out a bunch of lines through it. It really depends on the complexity of it. But designing it wise, yeah, 1 to 2 days. Cutting is maybe another step on the production side. But yeah, it just really depends on the complication of the cutout.
Okay. And then another question again from Mercedes. Do you have stock imaging for pop-ups that are less expensive? Not yet. We're adding these products. This is our first version. We just got to the point where we're able to do these at scale, which means producing the hundreds of thousands or even millions per month. As we gain more experience this, we're going to probably offer additional types of products. But generally, when you're in the manufacturing world like we are, you build a line for a product, and then you optimize that line, and then as we add new products, we can create additional lines. And so our first product is what it is, and then as we get going, we'll introduce new products, and our marketing team will let you know.
Hey, remember when we first started this thing? We went out to, what was it, Target, Hallmark. We picked up a couple of these cards and some pop-up cards, and we were like, man, these things are so expensive. They're like $9-10, But we're happy at least we drove it down half the cost. You don't have to stuff it. We personalize it. We stuff, seal, and deliver it for you. So we do all the work. So.
And for the the $3.99 pricing that we're showing, it's actually includes not only the design, the printing, the stuffing of the envelopes, the creation of those pop-up cards, the addressing of the envelopes, and we're sending it with a first-class stamp as well. So it's not going out standard mail or bulk or anything like that. We're actually going to stamp every single one of these. We did that because we felt that, and we could do with just an indicia, but ultimately we felt that we wanted this to look like a thank you card or a birthday card, which we're actually also offering. We'll have thank you cards, birthday cards, and so on. They'll be blank that you can actually handwrite a message and send them out. So if you want those and you want them branded, we can do that as well. I see another one here says somebody wants to know how does the auto market update work for just single family residential or also for condos? So yeah, it does work for both. It does not work for commercial properties. So any residential properties, it'll work for single family, condos, PUDs, things like that. And it, yeah, but if you're doing commercial or complicated multifamily, it's just impossible to pull that data and to be anywhere near accurate. So no. Okay, and then Janet says, hi guys, do you offer suggestions when you're trying to come up with our own designs specific to us? Yeah, absolutely. So maybe Chio can get into that, but ultimately we'll call it a brand consultation. Maybe you can tell us a little bit how that works.
Yeah, so a little bit what I do is I try to figure out and identify what let's take a step back. What I do is, one, I want to be sensitive to all the the amount of effort and time you put into developing a brand. So I want to be sensitive to that. And then the second thing is looking at your brand and identifying, hey, how do we try to, if it's something really complex, then maybe your logo might look kind of complex or your logo is pretty simple. I'll say, hey, how do we refresh this a little bit? And then how do we implement it into a process or a project or a strategy to really maybe drive more responses? But basically, I think with your brand, if you have something specific with your brand, I would love to work with you guys, try to see what you guys are already doing, and then, hey, how do we fit into your business plan? How do we, without taking too away from what you've already invested, how do we kind of make it more refreshed, but also innovate, and then also, how do we drive that business for a little bit further? So one, it does require some consultation. A lot of times what I do is I either jump on a phone call, I talk with maybe sometimes with just the agent itself first, and it might be something where I've been in discussions where I go and meet the whole entire team. So I'll meet the transaction coordinator, I'll meet the buyer's agent, I'll meet the listing agent, I'll meet the whole entire team pretty much. And so it's always like a two-way street. And then once we identify some of the pain points, then the ball's in my court, and I basically come up with a plan, and we pitch the plan, and then we see what the next steps are. So
yeah, I'd add to that. One of the things is, there's a couple components to it. One is, what are you ultimately trying to achieve with your business? Is this something where it's an individual agent or a team and you're looking to ultimately sell this brand down the road? Are you looking to really specialize in a particular area? You know, instead of being just a generalist agent, do you want to be known as, you know, like we talked about, the condo specialist or a specific area specialist? A lot of these little tiny components become a really important part of your brand and your ability to connect with your recipients. Because if, for instance, you know, my brand is specific to Eichler Homes, which is a kind of style home that we have, a typical builder's home out here, and you're an expert in that area, you know, maybe having some imagery around that or some reference to it will really resonate with somebody. So it's a very in-depth type of consideration, and ultimately you have to not only think about what you want to achieve now, but what you want to achieve 5, 10, 15 years down the road, and ultimately how do you want to transition out of the business. So, you know, it's not to be taken lightly, but at the same time, it's something that you can also start with, and then you can effectively improve over time. If you look at like the Coca-Cola brand, you know, it has changed also, and Pepsi, and you know, all these major brands. So you want to kind of have that same strategy.
And you know, I'll share this real quick too. Brands are always, you know, growing and evolving all the time. And one of the things I did before was working with pretty large Fortune 500 companies. Back in the day, my day, I was working for a pretty big agency at the time. It was for AT&T. They had just acquired Singular at the time, and what I had to do was really carry that brand. They had that, remember that orange kind of like branding they had going on. It was such a big merger at the time that I literally wrote up guidelines that were so big to carry that brand over. I mean, it took some time to evolve that brand, transition all the customers over. So little things like that, everything is a strategy behind it. The way I look at it in particular, right now is really popular in real estate, is this whole concierge program. And I work with a lot of brokers and stuff like that, creating this whole concierge program at the broker level. But now I'm starting to do it with agents.
Right.
So agents will say, hey, Chio, I'm coming up with my own type of a thing where, hey, I'm working with lenders, and you know, this whole white glove treatment I want to give these guys, I want to tell a story with it. And how do I do that? And so those are things that we work on and try to identify strategies that are going to work. Right now, that's a trending one. But yeah, anything that you guys have, I'd love to hear it out. You know?
And you know, back to the pop-ups, ultimately, when we get that brand figured out, we translate it to that as well. So that, you know, stay on topic. And
we'll carry it over for sure.
We got a couple more questions here. So says, can you create a key code that allows our sphere to go directly to the website to get free estimate? Yeah, we do that all the time. That's one of the standard things we offer. We don't charge anything extra for that technology. You're just paying for your printing and mailing, and we give you the free estimate tool, a landing page. You can even use a widget from our site and plug it into your site, and all that's automatic. And our customer service team, which is available 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, it would be glad to help walk you through it. We don't charge anything for that. Basically, we love your business and really appreciate what you do. And so we try to basically minimize our cost to be, you know, the high volume leader in this space, which we've done fairly well. And give you guys tools. And if you have ideas around that, feel free to share it. We're always innovating as well. So, okay, that was the same question. What would be a good strategy or first mailing to a new agent wanting to introduce themselves to a new farm? That's a great question. You want to answer that, Chio?
Yeah, so first thing, I get this question all the time, right? And so a lot of people say, hey, I want to start farming, right? So, you know, sales always about game of numbers, right? First thing I try to identify to them first is because I don't want you guys to be discouraged from not doing direct mail. The experience has to be good. So the first thing I'm going to look at strategically is what's the size of your farm? If it's 200, forget it. I usually tell people, don't even think about it yet.
Unless it's like a specific condo or
more turnover,
a precise building group.
Correct.
But if it's a general, you know, single family residential farm, if you don't want to be a little bigger.
Yeah, you do. And then one thing I always preach is about being consistent, right? So I know a lot of guys who start farming, it's hard to be consistent. The thing is, you don't have a business, you know, you're trying to invest, you want to go market a particular area, but you can't do it every month. If you can't do it every month, do it every 2 months. If you can't do it every 2 months, do it every 3 months. Whatever that frequency is, let's just commit to that first. That's the first part of that strategy, right? The second thing is you got to have something that's going to build your reputation fast. How competitive is it in your area that you market? If you're going up against top agents, it's going to be real difficult. You might have to do something where we call blitz marketing, where your frequency is going to have to be the out rate or the output of that particular rate is going to be more frequent than a top producing agent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now what you got to do is mail instead of once every month, maybe you might do it like once every 2 months, and then you do that for once every 2 weeks, and you do that for the 6 months, and then you slow it down towards the end of the year where the market's less active, right? And then now that we have a plan, what's the content?
Right.
What are we going to send out? A lot of agents go, hey, I want to go and send out something to just describe who I am, right? Agent announcement kind of card, right?
Mm-hmm. Something like this.
First thing I would do is something like this. I would say, hey, have I ever sold anything in this area? If I did, I want to bring back that sale. I don't care if it's from a year ago or a year and a half ago. I just want to show that I'm successfully selling. And then maybe the second card is a quick introduction, about who I am. But I think, a lot of top producers would tell you this, right? They farm to a certain extent, but the proof is in the pudding. A lot of them just send out, cards like that. And we want to be able to show that, hey, you're really successfully selling at the beginning. So,
right.
So that's what I would kind of generally do. But yeah, there's different ways to do it. So it just depends.
And I've worked with, probably thousands of agents too over the years. And many of them just starting out. And my recommendation is always think about your budget, because you don't want to go too big, because if you farm too many homes, the cost, it's just out there, and you won't be able to sustain it. So I try to choose the right size farm to really get the most bang for your buck, so you can truly be consistent. The second thing is be careful about how you choose your farm. You can use tools like I talked about, Rebo Gateway or Prospect Now. Those are more what I'll call event-driven strategies. But for a true farming strategy, sometimes even making subtle differences to where you choose your farm, you might have a slightly higher turnover rate. And so you're going to want to optimize the farm itself based on how many opportunities you get. So if, say you're farming 1,000 homes, and 30 of them are coming up each year, you're probably only going to be able to compete on 15 of those, because some of those are going to go to friends and family and so on. And then if you have some super duper top producing agents in the area, really, how are you going to compete against those? Whereas if you can find a farm that's less attractive, it may seem less attractive to you, like the homes don't have as much curb appeal, but they have high turnover rates, and they're being ignored by all the top agents because they only want to work with the mega listings. That's a fantastic farm where you can do a ton of production. And also, we have an introduction farming course on what we call Corefact Academy, where you can go online and read a bunch of these tips. And we're also open to questions and to chat with you about that. So I'm going to move on. Stephanie says, thanks for the samples. You're welcome, Stephanie.
I told you people were getting these samples. They're out there. There's so much high demand, by the way. So it's so hard for us to keep up right now. So if you guys ask for those requests and you guys haven't received those samples, I just beg you, be patient, please. You guys will get it soon. All right.
May I choose different color envelopes? That's something we are working on. We currently have these white envelopes, and you can't tell on the screen, but these are actually textured. They're very nice. We're going to probably offer a vellum style envelope, and we may also offer what we call a craft paper envelope, which looks kind of like a grocery paper bag, but it's very elegant. And so, and that's more of an, all of these, by the way, all of these products are done on recycled paper, but the craft paper has that more recycled look, so it appeals to a certain audience.
And it's trending right now. So
if I upload my mailing list, can I run it through the process to see who the most potential homeowners are? No, that's actually not a product we offer. That we partner with a bunch of different companies, and there are a bunch of companies that do this. We think the best one out there, at least the most cost-effective one, there's been a couple other companies that have recently gone under and have been sold out to basically private equity firms that charge thousands of dollars a month for these lists. The Prospect Now, I think, is about $100 a month, and they allow you to, I think, do an entire zip code or county. So I'd look for one of those. A lot of this stuff you can figure out yourself too. If you're, it's not too hard to figure out if you have access to data, and most of the MLSs provide a lot of that stuff. So if you need any recommendations, you can call us and we'll gladly make a recommendation for you there. Woohoo for condos, awesome.
Turnover rate, yes.
Yes, I hope I don't butcher this name. Melia says, can do the home estimate for condos, yes.
Yeah. Also absentee owners too, so just want to throw that out there too.
So how do we schedule a call regarding our current brand and looking at possible refresh? So that's your department, Chio. I don't know how you guys do that.
All right, so first thing is you're probably gonna contact me. I'm gonna give you my email, right? Everyone out there, all right, we'll give you my email. You have access to my email. It's Chio, CHIO, @corefact.com. We'll put it up there as well. If you guys are looking to develop a brand, maybe start a brand, maybe evolve a brand, maybe take it to that next level, maybe create that consistency, maybe just make a quick refreshment to it, just let me know. And so, yeah, you guys have my email now. So.
Okay, so this question says, do you offer foiled letter on pop-up cards? We don't offer that in the store, but we actually do a lot of foiling here in our business. So as a custom order, it could be done. Foiling typically gets expensive. So, because it's a fairly involved process, but yes, it can certainly be done.
Yeah.
And if you want that, just call us and we'll put an estimate together for that.
A lot of questions, you guys. Thanks for all the questions, by the way. We're hoping to answer all of them. We'll try to get to as much of these as we can. So I just want to give you guys a heads up. So.
Yeah. So this one asks, let's see. Thanks so much. I'll call for a consultation soon. I found a farm of roughly 500 people. Is that a good size to start with? I think so. That's a great size farm. It's so on a farm of 500, it really depends on your budget and whether you have the means to sustain that. So because it's going to cost you a couple $100 a month to farm. So oftentimes what we say is try at the beginning when you're first starting out, if you have a lot of free time, go walk the farm, do all the free stuff that basically is just eating up your time. So you're not spending a ton of money. Now it takes money away from us, but that's okay because ultimately we want you to be successful and be clients forever. So do all the inexpensive stuff, print out your own stuff at home, you maybe, market update and just go door knock and meet the neighbors, ask them, you may not be selling, but you know anybody who's thinking of selling, ask for the referral. That's generally a really great thing. And then what happens is as agents get busier and busier, they start marketing listings and things like that. They no longer have time to market. And oftentimes it drops off. And that's where we come in. We help give you that consistency of marketing. And that's where money actually becomes cheaper than time. And we'll help you put together a campaign, 12 months, indefinitely, whatever, to keep that going. So I think 500 is a great place to start, but just make sure you can afford it and make sure that you're doing all the other things around it.
Just make a commitment to it. That's the one thing is how do we commit to it? I mean, 500 is a great number to start with. Obviously, look at the turnover rate, work with your title rep, do the research in that particular area. I'm not sure if it's more of a targeted list, if it was maybe expired listings, or if you're just talking about geographical farm, 500 is really a really good number to start with. So.
Yeah, a couple other small tidbits, and we're off the pop-ups topic, but I think it's important. So a couple of things I noticed that happens with people when they start farming. One is they start getting responses, but they don't follow up. You're spending a lot of money doing this, and the ultimate thing is to follow up. So I would say when somebody responds to anything you're doing, positive, negative, it doesn't matter. You got to follow up, and that's probably the most important thing to do. The second thing is that you really need to educate yourself on your farm. So it's very important to know every single listing that's coming on the market in that farm. Keep track of everything that's sold in the farm, because when you're out there door knocking, you're talking to people and they say, oh yeah, my neighbor's house on 123 Chevelle Street just sold. Say, oh yeah, that was a great listing. It listed at $399 and it sold for $599, 200,000 over asking. The minute you know what's going on, you look like the consummate expert. And that kind of little subtle thing, which just requires a little bit of homework, and it's check in the MLS every couple of days or once a week. makes you the neighborhood specialist. And so when we talk about farming, it's not just about what to send, but it's about educating yourselves, following up, having the strategy, having the brand, and then executing the plan, and then getting success, and then taking that success, showing your proof of production and building on it. And every one of those little opportunities is key to growing the business. And what we found is that when you go into a farm, you look at the top producing agents that are, and usually you have 2 to 3 in a farm. Generally, at most, they're going to get 15 to 20% market share. It's just the way, the nature of the beast. You know, each farm supports 2 to 3 agents, and then a bunch of independents that are friends and family. You're never going to be able to compete against those, or you can, but it's a little more difficult. So ultimately, what you need to do is figure out over the next 2 to 3 years how you're going to be getting 20% of the listings in your area. And then as you do that, expand the farm out and grow the success from here to here. And then eventually you're farming 20,000 homes, which some of our clients do, and you're owning entire areas and having hundreds of listings a year. That takes a lot more than 3 years, maybe 10 to 15 years, but it is a real strategy and it works. And then how do you incorporate the people on your team to do that? Because if you're starting out and you're doing all the listings and you're working with buyers yourself, at what time do you bring in the buyer's agent? Because ultimately, if you're driving people around and showing them homes and they're, you know, this is sort of, you know, probably what you're working with on your broker, that strategy. But we work with it a lot here too, just because people come to us and say, hey, I want a miracle. And I said, no, we can't produce a miracle, but
we'll give you a plan for the miracle.
We can give you a plan if you follow it over 3 years.
Right.
Okay. Our marketing team here just reminded me that to let you know that we do have a couple of things we're giving out. We're giving out a couple of bonuses. If you go to secret.corefact.com, you're going to get a couple of things. Let me see what those are. Where did I put that?
Put down.
A bunch of free downloads, which will give you some strategies. Also, we have a special pricing on the pop-ups, and we're going to send out an email after this webinar to everybody on it as well. We'll post it to the channel. And I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions, and then we got to go. Okay, I see someone. Someone asked, what's a good response rate for using the free home estimate card? And that's really going to depend. I mean, we've seen anywhere from 0.5% to 5%, depending on the neighborhood. And then depending on it, you know, I would also look to see how many people are using Corefact in that area as well. So, and what's going on in the market? Is it a market that's transitioning from a seller's market to a buyer's market? It's really going to depend. I think generally when you look at traditional direct mail, typically you'll see a 0.5% response rate. Usually we get at least double that, typically 1 to somewhere between 1 and 3%. We don't guarantee it, obviously, because you know it's going to vary. But the other thing is that when you do get a response, and if you're using one of like the home estimate cards as an example, what you're doing is you're now bringing them online, and you're able to market to them in a new way. So over time, typically what we see on somebody who's campaigning with us, we'll typically see a 5 to 6% response rate cumulatively over a 6-month period. And for people that have been farming for a long time with us, sometimes we'll see up to 20%. So you can imagine, you know, 1 in every 5 homes having come to your website, registered for your free home estimate, some of them signing up for a monthly email alert. And it's just a great way to bring them online. And ultimately, it's all about conversations. It's about creating the communication and the dialogue and getting them from where they're thinking about selling to actually listing, and then helping them move through that home and hopefully helping them find the next home. You have anything to add to that, Chio?
Yeah, I was gonna say there's so many variables when it comes to driver response rate. I mean, sometimes it's just, you know, runs the gamut. But ideally, I think at the end of the day, I think what you're really looking for is, one, you're trying to close the sales cycle for yourself. You know, you're trying to build a reputation a little bit, so just to make it easier for yourself. And then 2, I think really is, you know, how do you start growing a team to kind of, you know, maybe ease off some of the workload that you currently have. And I think you need a plan for that. Now, if you don't have a plan, a lot of times what I always talk to agents about too is just, you know, think about some of the things that are kind of burning you today. Look at ways of how to be more efficient. If you're having to come up with marketing messages every month, that's not a really good idea, right? So I mean that should be something like we should help you guys with. Just because you can leverage our experience, you can see what works, we can talk about things that work, and maybe something that might work in one area might not work in another area. So you might have an idea, you might say something like this. Earlier we talked about like door knocking, for example, right? So when we talked about door knocking, I had this agent, right? And they were working with this beginning agent, their team. And they said, hey, I need you to door knock this neighborhood, this new neighborhood, right? And so they went and they door knocked every one of those neighborhoods. And what happened was after 6 months, one of the neighbors called them and started screaming at them, right? And they were like,
Yeah, I haven't heard this
hey,
one.
so he goes, hey, don't you ever leave any pieces at my door, right? He goes, you went and dropped off 5 pieces every month, right? And I was out of this country, and people around here think I wasn't home, so someone could have robbed my house. I mean, that's the kind of stories I get, right? So, I mean, just think about this. You're trying to grow your team, you're trying to be economical, right? You plan out the strategy, and then all of a sudden, you get this flashback about, hey, door knocking might not work, right? So I have all these little stories like this that I can share with you guys.
Usually those stories turn around actually to positive, because even though somebody calls you, to complain like a situation like that, we've had that all the time. Oh, my home estimate is way off or whatever. But it's an opportunity to have the call from a human perspective to actually connect, eye to eye and say, hey, look, okay, no problem. I want to be your resource. I want to, provide you the information on what's going on around here, and turn it to the next level.
Yeah, and here's another thing too. I wanted to share a quick tip for you guys who are trying to build a team and you guys are working with maybe a beginning agent. Now, in my particular neighborhood, for example, I have a gardener that comes by, right? And so, I told this agent, I said, hey, you know what? The gardener works with Jim down the block and Mary 3 blocks away, and they know everyone's activity almost. So, they partner with like guys like who are like maybe like a housemaid crew or maybe gardeners and stuff like that. Get those relationships, build those relationships. Business is based on these relationships. So anyway where you can get insight versus your competition, that's the difference for you guys, all right? So I want to share something like that with you guys. Like I said, strategies is always a big thing for me. I love it, I breathe it, and I do it all day. So,
yeah, one of the things with that is when you do have the gardeners and the housemen, people are using things like Open Door and so on to share the information. But it's really powerful when you're able to provide that information too. Somebody says, okay, I'm looking for a new housekeeper. Well, they're not listing their home, but they may within the next 6 years. And so by helping them find a quality referral now, helps plant that particular relationship ongoing. So in closing, as we're about out of time here, I just wanted to remind you guys all that we do have the bonuses that we offer. We're gonna have 3 PDFs with this, 25 pop-up cards for $100. Anybody going to NAR can get you a VIP guest pass.
Why not? Yeah, we'll be there.
And then, Chio, it sounds like he's offered up his consultation services.
So give me a call. I'll have to talk about brands.
And he's the most busy, he's the busiest person in this company, and we're ridiculously busy. So, and then ultimately, we're going to be doing these webinars quite frequently. And the next one we have coming up is about how to market during the holidays. And there are different strategies during the holidays that we're going to talk about. We think it's an absolute fantastic time to market, but a lot of agents are on the fence trying to figure out, okay, what do I do when it's slow? And we'll be talking about that.
Yeah, what do you do when it snows?
Maybe not door knocking.
Yeah, maybe not
or if you get some snowshoes and you can go snowshoe walking. So again, I want to thank you. This is Chris Burnley from Corefact. I've got Chio Lee here, our Director of Creative Services. We had the pleasure of speaking to you. Any questions, feel free to add them to Facebook or email us directly, and you can find us at corefact.com.
All right.
Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.